Hello, and welcome to the Second Chapter Variety Show, where we mix cosmic magic with a whole lot of business mastery. I'm your host, Hunter Louder, your friendly guide to business astrology, here to help you navigate your career's second act with the wisdom of the stars and innovative business strategies. Whether you're new to astrology or have been stargazing since day one, this podcast is your go-to for discovering who you truly are and aligning your business with your unique astrological blueprint. We're going to get real about what actions to take to build a perfect fit business. Each week, you can expect a mix of cosmic insights, practical business tips, and lots of laughter. Whether I'm chatting with guests who've embraced their own second chapters or diving into astro business wisdom, there's always something you can take away and apply to your own business. Welcome back to the Second Chapter Society Variety Show podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that so many of us can relate to. Finally finding the courage to pivot away from a career path that we've outgrown and stepping into a new chapter that's more aligned with who we truly are. If you've ever felt stuck in a job that no longer lights you up or wondered how to leverage your hard-earned degree in a completely different way, this episode is for you. We often invest years and countless resources into an education or career path only to discover that our true calling lies elsewhere. Yeah, guilty over here. That's where my guest, Juliana Coughlin, comes in. Juliana holds a master's degree in dietetics, but recently shifted her focus to something that lights her up, social media management. She's here today to share her story and strategies for anyone standing at the crossroads of whether to stay or step boldly into a new chapter. Today, you'll learn how to identify when it's time to move on from a career that no longer resonates, the mindset shifts needed to embrace a new path, and practical tips for making a smooth transition, especially if your journey involves creativity, communication, and a dash of self-discovery. If you're ready to stop settling and start living more authentically in your career, this episode will empower you to take that leap, no matter where you're starting from. You'll walk away with an actionable plan and inspiration for your own second chapter. So let's get started. Welcome to the Second Chapter Society, where astrology meets business strategy to help spiritual entrepreneurs like you build soul-aligned businesses. I'm your host, Hunter Louder, and I've guided countless entrepreneurs through their second chapter. If you're ready to build a business that truly reflects who you are, you're in the right place. All right, everybody. Today's guest is Juliana Coughlin, owner and social media manager at One Step in the Right Direction. Juliana is known for bringing joy and fun to everything she does, and I've been talking to her for about 30 seconds before we started recording. I can guarantee that is absolutely true. She's a podcaster, runner, devoted Harry Potter fan, I believe, proud Hufflepuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You got it.
A registered dietitian, a spondy warrior, and dog mom living on beautiful Cape Cod. She has two podcasts, Runna, which I imagine with a Boston accent, right?
Yeah, you gotta say with a Boston accent.
About running in her hometown of Falmouth, Massachusetts, and Into the Fold, which is a Grishaverse podcast, both produced independently with her best friend Jeff. And I had to look up Grishaverse. That's the Blood and Ash trilogy, is that right? Or the
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. I was reading the Blood and Ash one. That's why I always confuse the two. So Shadow and Bone trilogy.
That's on my to-read list, though. I haven't read.
Awesome. I'm going to have to read the one you're talking about, too. And then on top of all that, you've run multiple major marathons, Boston, New York City, Chicago, Tokyo, and then you've set your sights on Berlin next. So Juliana's here today to talk about her major career shift from dietetics to social media management and how she's found a renewed sense of authenticity in this new path. So welcome, Juliana.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here. I love your energy already.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like you're just somewhere you started talking for the first 30 seconds. So I was like, yeah, I vibe with this chick. I like
awesome.
her.
That's awesome. Yeah, and what I like to do, mention at the start of the podcast, is dive into your astrology. So, partly is I'm a Gemini sun. You're also a Gemini sun. And I think Geminis are really great for podcasting because they love meeting people. They love getting information. They love networking. They like collecting all that data and learning new things. And so this to me, I say a lot of times, I was my first client, I really used my own astrology chart to say, how do I want to build my business? And when I'm looking at, social media or blogging or email marketing or webinars, or how do I want to do that? Podcasting to me was just perfect with my astrology. So it's kind of fun to see another Gemini sun who's also doing podcasting, because it's so if you're a Gemini sun, just do a podcast.
Yeah, that is the moral of the story.
That is the moral of the story. So, the end.
Go buy a microphone. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk
Thank you.
today. It was
That was
been
the
great.
shortest TED Talk ever, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Now I did look up your birth chart, and I didn't have your exact time, so I couldn't look up your rising, but I did look at your sun, which is in Gemini, which is like how you shine, kind of your essence. You have your moon in Aquarius, which is how you nurture yourself emotionally and obviously in life, but also in business. And then since you are
Okay.
a social media manager, I also looked at your Mercury, which is like how you communicate, your brand message, like how you like to communicate, and your Mercury is in Cancer. So, what this tells me about you
Ooh.
is that with your Sun in Gemini, you're incredibly versatile, curious, and excellent at juggling multiple passions. As I described that whole list of things you do, I think that's incredibly accurate.
I feel called out,
Yeah,
yes, but yes.
it's like have the finger in all the pies and everything else.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
with your
you classic ADHD gal
oh,
over here, you
well, then you
know?
add that on top of it. Yeah. So it's like you got the
Mm-hmm.
Gemini, multi passionate, you got the ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
like want to do
Mm-hmm.
every single thing. And then you've
Yeah.
also got with Gemini and ADHD, I'm sure, several unfinished projects.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, many. I'm looking at them right here. They're on my desk.
You got the Doom pile going on, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, it exists.
Perfect.
There's two of them currently.
I love that. I'm a pile person as well. It reminds me of
Yeah.
what I need to work on. Um,
Yes.
But then with your moon in Aquarius, so Aquarius I love. It's one of my favorite signs of the zodiac because they're kind of like the weirdos of the zodiac, and I say that with all like love and positivity. It's like incredibly independent, like very innovative, love to think outside the box. So for you, like you're emotionally fulfilled and nurtured when you really like are exploring different ways of doing things, unique concepts. Like you're not all about following the status quo, and that's going to really make you feel good when you're not following the status quo.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
finally, like I said, you're Mercury in Cancer. So Cancer is like the ultimate like mother archetype sign in the zodiac. So with that, you really communicate with sensitivity and empathy and are able to tap into other people's emotions. Like there's definitely like a very intuitive side to Cancer. So as a social media manager, this can be an absolute superpower for creating like very compelling and heart-centered content.
Wow, I feel very seen
Oh,
and
good.
like called out right now. Like these are all like that is like scarily accurate to everything that is like how I would describe my essence.
Awesome.
When you're describing what is it, Cancer and Mercury, what was my
Mercury
other
in
sign?
Cancer, yeah. And then
Yeah.
your moon in
Uh
Aquarius.
and Aquarius. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know what Cancer and Aquarius are. Like I'm familiar with like the Gemini side of things just because I'm like kind of curious about astrology, and I definitely fall into that category of like Gemini's having like that like on and off phase of like having not necessarily two personalities, but you have your front facing personality and your inward personality. And I feel like a lot of Geminis are also actors
Mhm.
in a way. You have that like
We
performance
can
side
put
of you
on
where you show up
masks.
and you're like,
Yeah, we can put on
oh yeah,
masks really easily, and that's actually
oh
that's
yeah.
part of my story is why I got into astrology was I always just Gemini sun, like that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I started
Mm-hmm.
really like recovering from my burnout, I was looking more and more. I'm like, well, I'm not just a Gemini sun. Like, there's got to be way more
Mm-hmm.
complexity to it. Like, why are some Geminis that I meet really good at this? Other ones are bad at this. Like, they're,
Mm-hmm.
they're all kind of different and varied. And so astrology is not just like, oh, your sun sign, that's it. It's like a very
Yeah.
complex situation that brings all the things together. And so for me, I was such a good Gemini that I actually had, you said two personalities. I think I had like
Yeah.
75, just depending on like who I was around, professional, personal, my boss, my clients, my employees. And then when I left my career, I literally was like, I don't know who I am. Like, I've lost
Yes.
myself in all of these
Mm-hmm.
masks. And so that was a big part of me trying to figure out who I was and what I was good at and avoid burnout. So that's literally why I'm here. You hit the nail on the
I identify I identify with that so
yeah.
hard as the kid who grew up. I think I reached around the age of like 22, 23,
Mhm.
and I realized I'd just been masking and copying people for like all that time in my
Mhm.
life. And I was like, who am I? What do I like? I have no idea
Yeah.
what I actually like.
Like, what do
Just
I
because I
want?
just
What's good for me? What works for
yeah.
me? Absolutely.
I had no idea. And I mean, but we'll probably get around to this at some point too. But my goal the last like 3-ish years, every year, because I don't do New Year's
Mhm.
resolutions. We don't do that right here. My goal every single day has just been to be a little bit more myself every day.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
whether that's a big way or a small way, just because I didn't know who I was for like, I don't know, like 22, 23 years of my life. I had no clue.
That's
So
that
I hear
moon
exactly what you're
Aquarius for
saying.
you too, is like Aquarius is all about being themselves. And sometimes to the
Yeah.
extent that they can't find their people because they're so outside their time. So like there's a little bit of that lone wolf energy. So it's like, do I either want to be with
Yeah.
people who don't know me, but I'm with people, or do I want to be kind of by myself, but at least I'm know who I am, I'm being true to myself. So there's
Hmm.
a little bit of that, give and take. And we all have Aquarius in all of our charts in certain ways.
Hmm.
So it's like that debate of am I myself and I am excited with who I am, but maybe I'm a little bit more alone because I can't quite find my
Yeah.
people, or do I compromise who I am and then I'm surrounded by people, but I have to pretend I'm someone I'm not.
This is literally my life. Exactly. Like I feel so seen right now.
Um,
And so
Good.
yeah, cuz that is like totally me. It's me finding ways, especially when I've been on that journey of self-exploration and self-expression, finding ways to be authentically myself within communities and within groups, because it is I always like to say that Juliana is a very specific flavor. I'm not everyone's favorite flavor, and I'm the fact that I tried to be so blasé for so long is wild to me, because I never met someone who is the combination of what I am, just in on the whole of everything.
100%. Yeah. And I think, I don't know if you ever get this too, but sometimes people say, oh, like, you're really quiet. Like, you're very, kind of reserved. I'm like, no, I'm just
Mm,
observing so I can figure out what
yeah.
version of myself I'm comfortable being
Mm-hmm.
around you, or I feel safe to be around you. And I still do that to
Mm-hmm.
this day. Like, I definitely
Oh yeah.
try. But it just
Mm-hmm.
depends on the person. If they're like an acquaintance, I'm like, okay, I can mask, like you say. If you're someone that I actually care about, you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
seeing actually who I really am, and we'll see if you like me or not.
Oh yeah. I always like to describe myself as Pandora's box
Oh yeah, I
too.
love
That
that.
I'm very quiet until you open the box, and then I do not know how to shut up.
I love that. Yeah, very similar. Like as people can hear, there's a lot of similarities with Gemini suns over here.
Yeah.
But what I love, reading about your history is like you have this, like ta-da, master's degree in dietetics. Obviously, I'm sure that took
Mm-hmm.
you a long time, not only to figure out that that's what you wanted to do, but work towards it. Like obviously an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
But in spite of all the time and dedication you put into that, you felt called to pivot into something totally different of social media
Yeah.
management. So like, I would love to know like what inspired you to take that leap from your dietitian career into your social media management career?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bunch of different factors. The first one being that I've been a dietitian since 2015, so it's been a hot
Mhm.
second, and I pretty much went through working in nursing home care throughout the entire COVID pandemic. And nursing homes are the unwanted stepchild of the healthcare system on a good day. Never mind during COVID. So like we'll give it like a medium T trauma, maybe a high key T trauma. We saw lots of people pass away. We saw lots of really terrible things happening. We were part in the thick of it. 'Cause I was going into the nursing home every day, and like we were so short on staff. Like we were all doing multiple jobs that we probably shouldn't legally have been doing. But no staff. We had to work with it. But that kind of got me to a point where even now thinking, because now right now I'm about like 2.5 years removed from being in institutionalized healthcare as a dietitian. Just the thought of going into one of those facilities to work, like maybe to visit someone, like I'm okay, but to go in there in the capacity of a dietitian gives me I shrivel up inside myself. I physically can't get myself to do it because it was just so traumatizing living through like essentially about 4 years worth of just crap. And traumatizing crap at best. Like, and yeah, I don't want to go back there. Like I work part-time taking on private clients now as a dietitian, and I'm more than happy to do that. Like that's cool. But it just it wasn't serving me, and it still continues to not be something I want to actually spend my time doing.
Mhm.
So that's part of the equation. The other half of the other third of the equation, one of the other thirds of the equation, I will say, is that I was never really happy in my job as a dietitian, just working in institutionalized healthcare. Just because at a baseline, I'm a very creative person. I was actually, instead of going into dietetics as my college major, I was going to be a voice major and
Wow.
go and yeah, that was what I really wanted to do. But my mom's
I was
like,
gonna say,
if you
you
do
did like
that,
the practical. Someone pushed you in the practical route,
yeah,
right? Hmm.
yeah, which is actually very funny to me thinking back now, because being a dietitian is a job for someone who is like wants a part-time job and has someone else who's bringing in the health insurance. They never want you full time. They only want to pay you like the max I've made up being a dietitian. And I have a master's degree. Like I have a master's degree and a medical license. $37 an hour. That's the maximum I've ever made. And usually the max you make as a dietitian is like 70,000 a year, which is crazy for someone with a master's degree and a medical license.
In the health field. Yeah.
Yeah, like my brother, who's an engineer who just has a bachelor's, makes like $120,000 a year at a baseline. That's his starting salary. I'm like, my maximum salary is like 70,000. If I'm working, if I can find a full-time job, like crazy.
You're like, and you probably found that out later, right? You're like,
oh yeah, I didn't realize that was after my mom told me the practical thing,
right.
and she's like, and I'm just like, yeah, because so this is what we get for choosing the practical route. We kind of get like tripping over your feet, screwed over in the long run. But you know, it is what it is. Like what's done is done. I mean, I loved getting my college, like being at college, so that was great. So I don't regret any of that. But and I learned a lot of things, and I'm happy where I am now. But that's part of the equation too. Is like I couldn't pay my bills being a dietitian either. That was half the issue too. And so I was kind of left floundering with that. And then I lost my my past job. I was working at a running shoe store, which was very fitting for me. Wasn't really paying the bills very well, but I was happy doing it. And for monetary reasons, I was just second in command manager. If they needed to get rid of someone, boom, bam, blah. That's what happens. Yeah. And so I was out of a job, and I mean, I've been on unemployment and I've lost jobs before, mostly related to my dyslexia, because I have dyslexia. I actually have gone on to get a formal diagnosis as an adult, so that way I can bring that into the workplace, because I've been fired for multiple times just for spelling things wrong or putting like words in the wrong order, where there wasn't a consequence from any of these things. It was just people being petty, essentially, and that's just kind of the long and short of it. But I now have a formal diagnosis. I bring that in. I'm like, here you go. I'm just letting you know before we start this job. This is what you're getting into, just because I've been in that situation before. But I've lost jobs before. And what I've done in the past is just pick up the next thing I can. Just whatever falls on my plate, no matter how I feel about it, just pick up the next dietitian job, pick up the next job that's going to pay me money, and not actually sit and think what I actually want to do. And so this time, I was like, I have unemployment. Like, I don't have to jump back into a job. I was significantly more happy working at the running shoe store than I was in healthcare, like any of the years I worked in healthcare. So let's kind of continue that momentum to find out like what you really enjoy doing. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing, which plays into my like astrology, I would say, is I enjoy connecting with people. I really love that like human connection side of things and helping people just feel better about themselves. I mean, so as I was being fired, the next thing on my plate was the Cape Cod Marathon, which I'm the social media manager for. And I also announced the finish line, which is my favorite thing to do in the entire world, because I get to kindly scream at people in the face, which yelling is one of my favorite recreational activities, positive yelling. Awesome. And just tell them how awesome they are and like how proud of them they are and that they're doing great and that everything is going awesome and they killed it and that they ran a marathon today, and like it's my Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Halloween, whatever, all the holidays rolled into one.
Cheerleader.
Yeah, I'm just good at that. And my friends know that too. They know if they come to me, I'm going to give them a nice pep talk. And if I know you and I know the correct way to get to you, I'm like very good at motivating people. And I know that from my dietitian career too, when I was doing one-on-one counseling as well too. All of my clients pretty much came back and had improved their lives, because I think I've just kind of hit a good zone of holding people accountable, but not being mean about it, which I think is a good way to be. But I found that, and then this year I I've always done social media. I started doing social media for a Harry Potter website called MuggleNet, like 8-9 years ago now, and started with that, and then started doing my own, and then started doing social media for all the podcasts I was doing, plus a bunch of other organizations, and I've done the Cape Cod Marathon for a while, and I just leaned really hard into it because I had the time. I had the time to do that, and I had the ability, and I loved it. I had so much fun. And social media, again, it's something that I've done for myself, for my own personal social media for years now, and I find it really fun. It scratches that performance itch that I didn't get from going into dietetics, and that creative itch that I would have gotten if I like done like the vocal studies kind of route in some capacity. But I always have some kind of performative thing that I want to be doing, like whether it's a podcast, whether it's announcing a race, whether it's DJing an event, whether it's just making something with my hands. Like I always have some kind of like performative creative thing that I want to be doing. And for me, social media has been something that even like I do it in my free time. I'll do Instagram lives for fun. Like I did one this morning because while in the middle of my run this morning, I was running because we did a Cape Cod marathon like run along, so you can like run along the course and put it on your TV or your phone
Okay.
and like actually go along
Yeah.
the course. Um, which is something that I prompted, and because I was like, I want this, and they were like, fine, Juliana, we'll do it. I was like, yes, and so I was watching that, and I was like, oh, we should promote this to the people who like are on our Instagram and stuff. And so I just set up my phone on my stand. I was like running on my treadmill. I was like, hi guys, and I'm like running and talking to the camera, just because halfway through my run this morning, I was like, that would be a fun idea.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like
So
it comes very naturally to you, this creativity, which I think for a lot of business owners, they might be amazing at what they do.
yeah,
Whether that's amazing at creating products or like connecting with their
mm-hmm.
clients or helping them, like whatever they might be doing. But sometimes that creativity can be like elusive. It's like, how do I talk about
Yeah,
this? How do I get people interested? How do I, get them curious? And I think you have that natural energy, curiosity, and like kind of that cheerleader concept of like, oh, let me really highlight you to your
yeah,
ideal audience and show
mm-hmm.
them what you can do. And then when they get in with you, they're probably sold when they get in with the client because the client's so good at what they're doing, but they might not be that great at the
Yeah.
creative part of it,
Yeah, and it also helps to have an outside perspective
Mhm.
as well too. And I think for me too, one of the things that I like to ask myself when I'm working with these social media clients, because a lot of them are doing something that I'm like not in, like I wouldn't innately be interested in.
Mhm.
Like I am working with a local nonprofit called Farming Falmouth, where they promote local agriculture, which I kill every single plant that I ever have tried to grow. So not my exact calling in life. Like I'm super behind local agriculture and things like that. Just being a dietitian, someone who tries to eat a little bit healthier. But I don't grow things. That's not my calling in life. And I just started working with a plastic surgery kind of reconstruction business. That they're going to start like a body positivity kind of like podcast talking about like just reconstruction and things like that, how it can change people's
Yeah.
lives. But these are things that I would never be interested in. And I always like to think to myself, what would make me interested in what they are doing? And what things are they saying that me as a layperson who, one, has ADHD and a short attention span, and two, has no real, like, I don't have a foot in the game. I don't have any kind of stake in the game. Are they doing that would make me interested in what they are doing? And I kind of use myself as client zero to see, like, is this thing that we are creating, is this engaging for me at a baseline? Because I'm not their audience, and that is exactly the people that they want to bring in, is more different people from different audiences, and not just play directly to one specific group over and over and over
Mhm.
again. So I like to think that that's kind of an advantage to have like an outsider's perspective when you are trying to just broaden your reach more or less, and create a message that is accessible to everyone. Just again, coming from a dietetics background, there are a lot of words that I use in abbreviations when I'm doing like medical notes that if you read it through and you had no medical background, you would be like, what is this jarble gumble of
Mhm.
words that and symbols and weird letters that are in here? And I think I know that I don't realize that people don't understand that until they say something sometimes. And that can happen in any industry. You have shorthand for things, you have like terms that you apply to certain things that only people within your industry know. And then you go and try and communicate with the greater world, and people are like, come again? What?
Yeah, or it's not important to them. That's, people don't make
Yeah.
decisions about technical things. It's an emotional decision that we then justify logically. So how am I
Yeah.
appealing to your emotions? What is your problem? How am I solving your problem? Do I even know your
Mm-hmm.
problem? Do I understand you? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious too, with you talking about dyslexia and ADHD. Do you have any favorite tools that you use to help with like spelling and putting things correctly to
Oh,
kind of overcome that? I mean, people with ADHD, dyslexia, all the things like super, super
yeah.
creative because you think differently. My son has
Yeah.
ADHD and dyslexia and dysgraphia, thinks totally differently. And
Uh-huh.
it can be a struggle to try and like kind of mainstream what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
something like social
Mm-hmm.
media, which, captions, spelling, all that kind of stuff. So, do you have any
Yeah.
favorite tools that help you with that?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and shout out to your son.
Yeah,
It's because fellow human over here with all the same issues
absolutely.
and challenges. But I would say when it comes to creating social media things, uh, I have like two tools that I like to use, and then I also like to like bounce it off. I have certain people that I know I can run it
Okay.
by that are really helpful. My aunt and my mom are really great to run that by. So have I would say one, have people that you can help assist you when you need a lending hand, and you can be like, hey, can you just like spell check this for me really quick? And I think that's if you have that in your life, that's really helpful.
Mhm.
I would say when it comes to computers tools, Grammarly, I find extremely helpful because you can install that on your browser. I usually use Google Chrome, and it checks everything. It is so nice, and they've just upgraded it recently in the last like 6 months or so, where if you use the paid version, you can get grammar, like actual like grammar feedback too, not just like spelling and like basic things,
Mhm.
but they will help you like reformat everything if you need
And
it.
then you even say like what kind of tone you're going for as well. You can say, oh, I want this
Mm-hmm.
to be more professional. I want this to be more friendly. I want this to be more funny, and
Mm-hmm.
they can kind of help you with those. I've even seen commercials where people are using them for like dating apps. Like, how do I
Yeah.
text this person back? It's like, oh, well, this tone would be more friendly. Or, how do I fill out this
Yeah.
job application? Like, oh, it's like with the world of AI. I
Oh
really
yes.
love, like, I love AI, and for so many reasons. So people that might not be able to do those things on their own, now you've got the technology that can help you put your thoughts together and like, here's all my thoughts from like a million places. What am I trying
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
say? And it's like, oh, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to say. Now I can communicate that with people more effectively and then hopefully grow my
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, and I'm going to just like double down on what you're saying already and say that my next thing was going to be Chat GPT. And I think honestly, Chat GPT has been the main reason I am able to run a business on my own because it essentially is my like personal assistant where I will go to it and be like, these are the ideas that I have. I need it formatted like this. And then it will create something for me which for me, having ADHD, my biggest challenge is getting from the starting point of the idea to the working on the idea, and that creating of that initial skeleton is the hardest part for me. And I'm great at editing. Once you give me the skeleton, I can go in and slot things in and change things or whatever, and I have notes. It's great. But getting that initial skeleton for the project setup is the hardest thing, and ChatGPT can do that for me if I go to it and be like, hey, I'm doing a social media campaign for these people. These are what they want to include. This is what I want to include. This is the tone that I would like it to be in. Can we start off here? And then it will give me an idea. And even if it's not exactly right, that's what I need is just that initial starting point for me. And then I can take it from there. And it's so helpful. And it saves me hours on hours on hours and hours and hours of my brain just going in circles and being like, I don't know how to do this. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, I can't get this phrase correctly. And then like emailing it back and forth with like 10 people who don't like their help trying to help me, but they don't really know what I'm going for. And then this is the game changing,
Yeah,
absolutely game changing.
I agree. And I think it actually could help people that might not have even been able to have their own businesses before. Like I always say, like I was waiting
Yeah.
for ChatGPT to exist for me to have my own business because creating offers, creating sales pages, creating emails, creating
Yeah.
social media, like that is really hard for me. I'm more of a logical like business person. So making it
Mm-hmm.
creative and flowery and like appealing to emotions. I have a Virgo moon, which Virgo's like
Mm-hmm.
all about organization and logic. So it's like I'm not very emotional. So it's like, how do I appeal to people's emotions? Like ChatGPT can help me with that. Once they
Yeah.
get into my world, like I'm very confident. I've got decades of experience. I know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing. I think I'm pretty fun to work with too. But it's like getting them in when you're like, I'm just speaking the way I normally speak. And people are like, what are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about? It's like, I think it's such a great tool. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I would not like I never want to lose it. Like if I can keep AI, like that'd be great. And I will agree with you too in the fact that I feel like I've always wanted to have my own business and I've always been someone who doesn't conform well.
Mhm.
Again, going back to Juliana's astrology reading, does not conform well to like societal rules in a lot of ways. I've always been that person being like, why can't we do it this way? Like, why can't we just like, why can't we be creative about the process? Why does it have to be X, Y, and Z? Why can't it be ZYXM?
Mhm.
Like, come on, we're getting to the same endpoint.
Yeah.
And I've just never understood that. And also, as someone who, like, I have a chronic illness too with my ankylosing spondylitis, like, some days are better than others, and I can't always do the same thing every day. And having to conform to that too is really challenging for me. And as like you probably know as well, people with ADHD, we're very productive. And we're productive to a point where we hate ourselves because our to-do list is like 50 million things
Right.
long, and we get like I get halfway through my day and I'm having like a bad day for me, and I'm like, I text my friend, I'm like, yeah, I like did the laundry, and then I went for a run, and I went to the gym, and then I did this, and then I did that, and I wrote a proposal, and I did this, and I was like, but I haven't gotten anything done today. And my friend is like, I literally sat on the couch, Juliana, I have not gotten up, it is 2 p.m. You have done like 5 days of my work in one day, not even, and you are hating on yourself for not getting anything done.
But that's what high achievers do. Like high achievers are like, I have 20 things on my list. I only got 18 done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a failure. I didn't do the
Yeah,
other
I'm a failure.
two.
Yep.
You know, they don't
Yep.
look at like and then you have ADHD on top of that. And then you have the
Yeah.
problem that you don't have the dopamine. So when you do
Yeah.
finish a task, like someone like me, and I'm not gonna say I don't have ADHD, but because it's all like on a spectrum, but like I don't
Mm-hmm.
have it to the extent, for example, like my son does. And it's
Yeah.
like when I finish a task, like I feel the accomplishment. But a lot of people with ADHD don't get that dopamine
Mm-hmm.
rush, and so they just keep going, 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 and then that's where
Mm-hmm.
you can also lead to burnout because you're like trying
Yeah.
to find that happiness, that end point that you can be like, oh, look what
Mm-hmm.
I did, and it never comes. So I was just listening to one of
Yeah.
my teachers was talking about because she has ADHD as well, and like
Mm-hmm.
actually scheduling and inserting those dopamine moments when you finish a task. So like, go take a
Yeah.
bath, go take a nap, go eat a piece of chocolate, go for a walk, go for a run, pet your dog. Like you have to put
Yeah.
those things in place because they're not happening automatically. And that's
Yeah.
where
I
you talk
mean,
about the rules. There's no rules
mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, you should just feel good when you no, like not everybody does. So like let's
Yeah.
look at who I am, look at who you are, look at everybody's unique and individual and different, and let's figure out a life, a business that actually works for them, not that
Yeah.
works for all the other people.
Yeah, and I think that I know that I'm a big proponent of just like meeting people where they are, and hopefully that kind of reciprocates itself back into the world and brings it back to me. And so far, so good. I'm a big proponent of like calls to like, which just means like whatever kind of like vibe of energy you put out, you're probably gonna get it back. You put out a crappy vibe, you're probably gonna get people who are also kind of crappy around it. You put out a good vibe, you're probably gonna get some people who are good because whatever energy you put out is probably gonna generally attract people of a similar
100%.
energy, more or
Yeah.
less. But yeah, I have so many things on my to-do list like every day, and I'm like, how is it? I look down, I'm like, how is that achievable? But then my brain is like, we could do it. Why not? YOLO.
Well, I'd say, yeah, learning patience has been a big one for me because it's like
Oh,
I want to go,
same.
go, go. Like now, I want it yesterday, and just saying,
Yeah.
okay, in a year I'm gonna do this. Like that's been so hard. Like a year? Are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
because I can't even guarantee that I'm gonna want to do that in a year. And so like I'm one of
Yeah.
those people where it's like I like having a plan,
Hmm.
but the plan can change. And I kind of give myself
Yes.
permission to let the plan change, to leave things half finished. There's a really great book. I don't know if you've read it by this woman named Barbara Scher called like Refuse to Choose, and it's all about multi-passionates, which she
Oh.
calls scanners. And so it's this
Hmm.
idea that our society rewards specialists. So like you're a
Hmm.
NASA astronaut, you're an engineer, you're a doctor. Like we reward specialists who spend,
Hmm.
you're a dietitian with a master's degree.
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but that it's actually really important to have these like kind of renaissance people who have their hands in multiple areas, because they're the ones that have like the ideas, they're the ones that are experimenting, they're the ones that are moving things forward. Like they both need each other, the
Hmm.
specialist and the multi-passionates need each other. And it was a great book for anybody who like feels guilty about having half finished projects, because she's basically like, the idea is that you started that because you wanted something out of it, wanted to learn something, wanted to experience something, wanted to feel a certain way. Once you got that, you're done with it. And it's okay
Yeah.
to be done with it because you got what you needed out of it. And that philosophy has changed my life, because now, like, I used to look at books that I would buy and I would feel so guilty because I didn't read them from cover to cover. Now I'll just open them up and I'll read a chapter. And I'm like, that's what I needed for that
Hmm.
book. Now I'm going to go donate
Hmm.
it, pay it forward. Someone else can enjoy it now. So, like, a lot of those things that high achievers have, that guilt and that drive,
Yeah.
and then they push themselves towards burnout. It's like, how can I get what I needed out of that thing and then move on? You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is like self-acceptance,
Mm-mm.
and also just one of the things that I've had to battle with my chronic illness is just accepting where, well, and in general, accepting where I am in the moment, and just accepting that today is not yesterday, which is not tomorrow,
Mhm.
which is not the day afterwards. And if each day was the same, then life would be boring, and that you can only control so much
Mhm.
too.
Oh yeah. You really can only
One of the
control
things.
your reactions to things. That's
Hmm.
literally the only thing you can control is how you perceive something. And then this idea that rest is not productive. That's another thing I
Yeah,
had to
that's not.
unlearn where it's like,
Hmm.
now I'm like proud of like, I took a nap today. Like I'm so proud of
Yeah,
myself. I took a nap. And I actually have this thing where I try like maybe once a week to get bored. And because
that's a good
I used to
idea.
just boredom was so uncomfortable for me, like so
Hmm.
like destructively uncomfortable. And now I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
grateful that I have a life that I enjoy so much that I can be bored, but not from a panicked perspective, like from a, oh
yeah,
wow, what a great life I have. Like I'm not under this crushing like anxiety, or I'm not having to
yeah.
like go work 17 jobs, or I don't have 500 kids to feed. It's like I can be grateful
Hmm.
for the boredom, which took me a while, I will say.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the things I'm still in the process of accepting
Oh yeah,
is the boredom side of
it's
things.
good.
I'm getting better at it, I will say, especially being self-employed because
Mhm.
I don't have someone to tell me exactly what to do all the time, which is great, but also one from ADHD. Sometimes not the best because sometimes I just want to have those executive functioning days where someone's
Mhm.
like, "Here is your list of things to do, Juliana," and
Absolutely,
I'm like, "Great, I did not want to think today."
absolutely.
Uh, but it's good for me to sit in those boredom
Mhm.
moments, and I feel like what you're saying, like sometimes a lot of good comes out of those, whether it's just rest
Yeah.
or whether it's like my podcast runner, like I was like, oh, I'm bored, I was like, I can actually take action on that thing I've thought about doing for
Mhm.
like 7 years now.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been able to do. And it's just, yeah, I don't think boredom is as terrible as our brains make it out to
Mhm.
be.
Absolutely. And it is, and again, Gemini sun, I think it's a very, very much
Hmm.
Gemini concept because we are air signs, which means we live in our head. So we're always thinking, we're
Oh
always
yeah.
downloading, we always have ideas,
Hmm.
and we want them to kind of come to life. So being able to take a rest, being able to prioritize, is definitely hard for us, but it's very important to be able to do. Yeah.
Yeah. uh,
Perfect. Well, with that being said, what I would love to do is dive into my vanilla ice segment,
oh
which
yes.
is, yo, you got a problem, I'll solve it. Because I'm a 90s girl, like I said before, and I'm kind of a
Hmm.
dork. So I always ask
Love
my
it.
guests, what problem are they having in business they would love to solve? And I believe you
Mm.
asked in your form, you said, what am I accidentally missing out on or not taking advantage of in my new role? Is that still accurate what you
Yeah,
wanted to discuss?
I think that's still a great question.
Awesome. Do you want to give me like a little background on like where that idea came from or that question?
Yeah, I think part of it is I'm still like discovering like some of the ins and outs of becoming a social media manager, and also some of the ins and outs of working for myself and having my own business and being able to create my own schedule, which has been great, but also left me feeling like, wow, you're so lazy, Juliana. But I'm like, no, I'm not really. But then half my brain is like, you are. But it's a lot of it is me just not really knowing the landscape of being fully self-employed and also being full-time in social media, like 100%. Like I'm learning, but I don't have everything. So I'm sure there are things I'm missing out on that I just don't realize it, because I know that that's happened a bunch of times already, where I'm like, oh yeah, crap, like that is something that I should either be doing or like I have the privilege of being able to do. So yeah, I don't know if there's some, maybe if you can speak from like a self-employment side of things, like things that people didn't tell you straight out the gate or you didn't realize straight out the gate, but you're like, oh, this is actually important or a cool benefit of being
Hmm.
self-employed.
No, I think that's very common too. A lot of my clients were, former like C-suite executives, like managers.
Mm-hmm.
They know business, they know life, they know things. Like they're not,
Yeah.
just, oh, I just got out of high school. Now I'm trying to start my own business. Like they have been successful in their life, but then starting your own business is a whole other, ball game because a big part of it is
Yeah.
that you wear all the hats, at first,
Yes.
so while you're building it, you're the manager, you're the accountant, you're the, clerk, you're customer service, you're HR, you're all the things. And so it can be a little overwhelming. And I think most people really want to focus on what they do because that's what they're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
not the business aspects of business. Um,
Yeah.
and so the way I like to look at it is and I'll do this like with strategic planning with some people as well, is almost like interviewing their business. And there's just a lot of questions people aren't even aware of. Like, do you have an accountant? Do you have a CPA? Are you using bookkeeping software? What's your legacy plan? Like if something happens to you, are you going to sell the business? Are you going to blah, blah, blah? And you might be like, I have no clue. I haven't even gotten my first client yet. And that's okay. But it almost gives you an idea of like, oh, okay, I see where this could go. I see where in
Yeah.
3, 5, 10 years, who knows, might be a year, like that this could go in, another direction. So the thing I think is the most helpful to get started is to create like a love and hate list in your business.
Mm.
And so, like, these are
Okay.
the things I love doing, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at them or I enjoy them or they fill me up or it's the whole reason why I got into this business in the first place. I love doing these things. And then, like, an I hate list. I hate paying bills. I hate sending contracts. I hate following up on clients or getting
Yeah.
forms. And then looking at that, and obviously, if you're just starting your business, you're not ready to hire somebody, just yet. But
Yeah.
looking at those things and saying, do I need to be doing those things now? Is that something that I can do later? Is that something I can delegate to somebody? Or is there like maybe one day a week that I do these tasks that I hate? And that's just like my shit day that I'm just like, I know I'm not going to enjoy the day, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get it done. And then afterwards, I'm going to go reward myself with something. Like, how can you kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a big fan of like forcing people to do things they don't like, but it's again, as a
Yeah.
business owner, there are
You got to
certain
do
things,
certain
yeah, there are
things.
certain
Yeah.
things you need to
Yeah.
do for the health of your business. So I feel like if you look at those lists and say, what do I love? And make sure that's your like 80%. And then what you hate is like your 20%. And then almost have to like schedule that stuff because you're probably never going to just, oh, look, I have magical time to do this thing I hate. No, you kind
Yeah.
of need to put yourself in that, parameter, maybe get together with a friend, do, I know body doubling works really well
Yeah.
for
Body
ADHD
doubling.
people, like on Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're going to sit
Mm-hmm.
down and do all this crap that we hate in our business for the next hour
Yeah.
and then we're going to chit chat
Yep.
for a while and then go about our merry way.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my suggestion, is a good place to start because you have a love and a hate list, and then that way if something pops up in business and it's not kind of part of that love category, you can be okay with letting it go because you're like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not something that I love doing, so I don't need to worry about it right now, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because a lot of times we try, oh, I want to do
Yeah.
this and this and this and this and this. And it's like,
Yeah.
focus on the things that you love doing that really fill you up. And that's going to help you when it's hard, when you lose a client, when things aren't growing the way you want them to, because you're like, I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually that work will pay off.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice because I've already like one discovered that with like multiple jobs. There's never no job is ever
Oh,
perfect,
yeah.
you know, and definitely discovered that with this job of like, oh, I have to do this now, don't I? Oops.
There's that joke about
And
entrepreneurs. It's like it's the only group of people that would rather work 60 hours a week for themselves than 40 hours a week for somebody else.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
valid, to be honest. Like, I feel that, and I will confirm that that is also
So
true.
you mentioned like flexibility. So what you get is flexibility doesn't mean you're
Hmm.
working less. And this whole like, oh, I work
Oh,
20
yeah.
hours a week and I sit on my couch and I manifest. Like people can get to that point, but they don't start there. No one starts their
No,
business working 20 hours
no.
a week to make enough money to like leave their job or whatever the case may be. You have to really put the work in. And that's why I
Hmm.
like the love it and hate it list, because if you're putting the work in, it doesn't feel like work on things
Yeah.
that you like. And then if you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize the stuff I don't like, that's going to move my business forward, then I think it takes some of the kind of pain and like bitter mouth taste out of it.
Yeah. I like the idea of concentrating it into one day,
Hmm.
too, and just being like, okay, it's Monday at 10 a.m. This is when we sit down and we do our
Yeah.
stuff. And that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah.
And just get it done.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different productivity methods, and like that one reminds me, I think it's called Eat the Frog, where it's just like you sit down, the
Uh-huh.
first thing you do in the day is the thing you're dreading the most because you just get it out of your way
Yep.
before you have
Mm-hmm.
excuses and before your day gets away from you. So there's Pomodoro timers, there's get things done, there's all sorts of different productivity techniques too that I think
Yep.
people with ADHD especially can utilize, like experiment. I'm a big fan of experimenting. Try this.
Oh,
Did it
yeah.
not work? Try this. Did it not work? You'll find something eventually that works for you, and then it's like the relief of that is just enormous,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that. And I think that's some great advice, just in general, and for me too. So
Yeah,
I like it.
awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
love that. And I know we're going to put some links in the show notes for you because you are
Yeah.
actively taking on some social media clients right now. And then you
Hmm.
also have a free download of kind of like marketing basics that people should implement in their
Yeah.
business when they're getting started, correct?
Yeah, some small business marketing basics. So
Perfect.
things that you can implement hopefully sooner rather than later if you're looking to do your own social media for your small business or personal brand. And also, if you feel like even those things are overwhelming, you have my contact information. You can hit me up, you know?
Absolutely. And with all of your, I know with your podcasts are more like personal and fun, but obviously what
Hmm.
I love about podcasts, people can really get a sense of your personality. Is this someone I'm going to
Yeah.
enjoy working with? Oh, great. I love the way she is. And like, obviously you're being very much yourself nowadays. It's like, that's like
Yeah.
your journey is to, be as much of yourself as possible. So I think if you
Yeah.
want someone fun, high energy, with a little bit of quirkiness, which I always love, I think you would be a
Hmm.
great social media manager.
Yeah.
Juliana, thank you so much for sharing your story of transformation from dietetics to social media management and showing us how to bravely step into a new chapter. Your journey really underscores the theme of reinvention and the power of listening to that inner nudge that says there's something more or something different for me out there. If you're listening right now and thinking, I'm ready for my second chapter, but I'm not sure where to start, I invite you to check out my free quiz. The link will be in the show notes. This quiz will help you identify what's blocking you from building that soul aligned business and offer some tailored next steps. And as I mentioned, if you want to learn more about social media basics for small businesses, Juliana has a free download that's perfect for anybody looking to up their social media game. And she's also accepting clients. So make sure to grab that resource and also keep her in mind if you're actively looking for social media management. So I would love to wrap up our session as I do with a card pull.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
of this is really just to justify my problem with buying too many decks. But anyway, so I
It's
picked for
okay. It's fine.
you the Affirmators Tarot.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
these are like
gorgeous. Love that.
affirmations. It says without the self helpiness. But for some reason, just reading your bio, I was like, she seems like a very positive person. And I think
We
this would be the
try.
perfect deck for her. So I'm going to pick a card
Yeah.
for you. Ooh, and you got the Emperor.
Oh, okay. What does the Emperor mean?
Let's look. Um,
I should have brought my tarot
ooh,
deck.
which one do
Do
you
you
have?
have? So the deck I have is called Wildly Fucking Abundant.
Oh, I have not seen that one.
It's
Was it
a
Oracle
sassy
deck?
affirm. They're sassy affirmation cards. So there's affirmation cards, but they're very sassy. So
Ooh.
I'll pull one for
Oh, that
you.
would be
I'll pull one
lovely.
for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Oh my gosh, no one's ever pulled a card for me on my podcast
Oh,
before. Let me read you what the Emperor is. So the Emperor is the wise father figure of the tarot and has invited you into his study for a snifter of brandy and a frank chat about what it is you want from life. His influence can help you distill your many vague and overlapping dreams into a few concrete goals. Here's the real success and power deal. He's carrying around a golden orb to prove it. Admire the determination and steadiness it takes to achieve such sway, then find those qualities within and bring them front and center. If you do the work, you can accomplish anything. Just know it might take decades till you happen upon the exact right, this is definitely me kind of orb. The affirmation is I think I know I can. I think I know I can. I think I am totally, definitely positive I can.
I love that. That is honestly pretty accurate, and that was a pretty good
I
pull.
was like, I love this stuff, astrology and tarot. It's like fun. I mean, I'm definitely a very logical, like down to earth
Hmm.
business science person. And I feel like if this helps you, if this gives you ideas, if this gives you like
Yeah.
love and acceptance and justification, like why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
life's too fun to be serious all the time.
Yeah. So the card I
Yeah.
have, the tarot deck, it says it's called Wildly Fucking
Uh huh.
Abundant. It's 48 sassy affirmation
I
cards,
love it.
and it says how to use to think about what you need guidance on. Take a deep fucking breath and pull a card. Trust that the right message will show up for you. So I pulled a card for you,
Thank you.
and we'll see what we got. It says
Explore that shit more.
explore that shit more, and there's nothing else really there. These are just like fun little cards that my friend Kathy
Yeah, I
sent
love
me.
it. I
They're all
feel like
just
it's like
like,
we talked about experimenting a little bit earlier. Like that's what I take from
yeah,
that is like just keep going out there, keep trying, keep learning, keep refreshing, like and just keep
yeah,
exploring. I mean, that's exactly
explore
what
that
life
shit.
is. Yeah, try and find that answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I This is a fun little deck that she sent me because she knows I like little weird sassy
Yes,
things like
I
this,
love it.
and it's just great. I keep this in my kitchen drawer, and once in a while I'll just like pull it out, and just be like, okay, because it'll tell me just like random weird things. I'm like, I love it. It's great.
What's
No
what's my
notes.
sassy affirmation for today?
Yeah, just explore that
Oh,
shit.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me, Juliana. I really appreciate you being on the show today and for hanging out with
Yeah.
me and chit-chatting and being two Gemini suns in full force. So hopefully it wasn't too much for everybody listening. Like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
not
all
too
the energy.
overwhelming.
If you're on the fence about switching careers because you're worried about wasting your degree, listen up. Your education and experience never go to waste. There is no way that you can see how all the things that you do, all the things that you learn, and where they're going to lead you in the future. And I'm definitely speaking from experience here. Every skill you've gained is a building block to your next chapter. So the real waste, though, is staying stuck where you don't belong. Thank you so much for tuning into the Second Chapter Society podcast show. If you found value in Juliana's story, please subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star review, and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. We're here to support each other on our journeys to our second chapters, and you never know whose life you might change with one simple share. Thank you again, Juliana, for joining us. Until next time, keep following those cosmic breadcrumbs and building your soul-aligned business one step in the right direction at a time. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to shoot me a message on TikTok or connect with me on YouTube. Links can be found below in the show notes. Until next time, keep building your business with mastery and a sprinkling of magic.